is the outline of the shape that they gave us that will fit into their garden plan. And there weren't any other hardscape or structures to map into it. It will be one big open space. And on your map, you're going to want to note the date, where north is, and the scale that you choose. And different, if you're using a printed map, I guess you could have that scale, but if you're trying to measure and then use a ruler to create your own, 1 inch equals 4 feet or 1 inch equals 8 feet are kind of common, easy scales to use for residential size spaces. And so number 3, developing a plant list. So this is our large plant list, but we did have quite a big space to work with, so we had a lot of different species that we could use. When you're developing that, it's a great idea to be noting mature size of all of your plants, and you can create scaled symbols that you can either cut out or use a circle template or something to draw them on your map. And again, we were doing it on a computer program. But let's see, make sure I'm covering everything. So number 4, we're drawing in the hardscape and additions, which was that concrete path. And that would be the time too if you're going to have your own pathways or seeding areas that you're planning for those kind of before you putting all your plants in. And so getting those on the map, and then starting with your large trees, or maybe your yard is more fitted for a small tree and that's your focal point, but getting those larger species on the map first, and then filling in with perennials and annuals around that. And let's see, okay, so just some, this is the final design here. And these are the species that are the circles here, and then these areas, these colored areas, are actually a mix of wildflower seeds and plugs of some of the perennials. Some of the design principles to kind of keep in mind while you're creating your design. Again, focal points to just create the space, kind of like a nice backdrop for your space. Balance, making sure you don't have all your shrubs on one side and then all your wildflowers on another, and then you'll kind of have these empty spaces in the off season. So trying to mix in those evergreens amongst the deciduous shrubs, as well as the lower perennials that you've got your early blooming, mid-time blooming, late blooming, so you've got interest throughout the year. Again, for scale and height, kind of just remembering it looks nice to see small to large, whether in this space all of our small is around the entire outside because you can access the garden from all sides, and the large is in the middle. And repetition for repeating plants for cohesion, for unity when you're looking at it. And that's actually beyond visually being appealing, it's really important too for habitat plants to get some repetition, because it will become more visible to things flying over, to see larger clumps of things, especially when using smaller perennials. So in your garden, if it's a smaller garden, while it could be very appealing to pick, one of 30 different plants, the habitat value will be so much better if you're going to, pick a handful and plant 5 or 6 of those things in clumps or repeating clumps. And let's see, so contrast and texture, again, just mixing leaf shapes and colors and textures for interest as the year goes on. And Izzy's gonna tell you about the plants that we picked.
So here's just some visual pictures of some of the plants that are gonna be in the garden. This is not even close to all of them. We are a little bit of collectors when it comes to native plants. They're just all so important and great. The most important thing when we were choosing our plants, we started with trees, and I mean, it was a hot, dry spot, full sun. This is a great opportunity to plant an Oregon white oak. It's our #1 host species. It's going to be the big standalone tree, large tree in that planting space. We only really had room for one large tree. After that, we did plant smaller trees such as the blue elderberry and the western chokecherry. These provide so much pollination and also both provide berries that are great for habitat, and we'll take the wet winters we have here and we'll dry out a little bit. It was also important when selecting our smaller trees that they could handle being a little bit in the understory eventually when the other trees in the park and the oak fill in, and both of these species don't mind a little bit of shade. After we got our base tree species, we started working on our understory shrubs, making sure that we're really choosing the shrubs such as ceanothus and the buckbrush, and also do I have any pictures of oh yeah, here, coyote brush. This is when it's flowering right here. We made sure those were on the more outer edge where it was going to get the most full sun. It was the hottest area of the planting, and then we tucked things that want a little bit more protection, like red flowering currant and snowberry, kind of either behind, you can see here, tucked a little bit behind some of the larger trees, and still where they can be seen, but they're not going to get as blasted when first getting established. Once established, a lot of these will do fine with full sun. We just want to protect some of these species, thinking about layering. We also made sure that we were selecting for plant height and growth rate. So we didn't want one species to grow significantly faster than the one that it's planted in front of. You wanted to be able to see all of the plants as you walked around the garden. And then we selected our groupings, our plugs, and our ground covers wildflower mixes. And you can see those are clumped in the outside of the planting area. We really wanted to focus on pollination throughout the whole growing season, so that's late winter through fall and up until the frost. So we clumped plugs together with early blooms, so we paired camas with milkweed and goldenrod to get blooms throughout the season and to prevent having dead zones within our small planting mix. So there should be always something flowering or about to flower in each area. And then you can see that we planted pretty densely. I mean, this is, the 3D rendering is kind of everything's flowering. It's not going to all look like this at the same time, but we want to mimic a natural setting, so we do want to plant pretty dense. We still gave room for species to spread, but in a forest setting, in a natural setting, things are going to fill space, and that's what it looks like. It also helps with introduction of weeds, so if most of the ground is covered, you're going to get less seeds coming in from other areas. It's going to be harder for invasives and weeds to establish. And then lastly, just clumping everything together densely also helps us combat species mortality. So like, you know that not everything is going to survive. Even with native plants that have really high success rates in this area, we're going to lose some plants. So having repetition, planting densely will help mitigate that, especially if we aren't, it's not our backyard and we can't come and just plant something else. So really thinking about that. All right, so if this got you guys excited, we still need to plant the garden. So if you want to sign up to help volunteer and plant the Dallas garden, we'll be doing that on October 18th, probably sometime in the morning. We don't have the exact dates yet, but I know you can sign up with Morgan. And yeah, you can, bring your raincoat and a shovel, and we'll hope to see you there. So any questions? Yeah.
Okay. So, wood chips, and when you said bark mulch, you mean like bark dust?
Yeah,
It's not.
Yeah, it's a bark mulch or a bark dust.
Is what you meant by that?
Yeah, it doesn't have any wood. It's just the bark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wood chips. I had. If anybody doesn't know, that you can get them free. Arborists that are tree trimming companies will just dump them.
Yeah.
You don't have any control over how much it is or when they do it.
Yeah, that's the one thing. It's free, but
I happened to see my neighbor last year. I happened to have my neighbor had a tree trimmed or removed. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And so I just asked the guys that were doing it if they'd dump it in my driveway afterwards, which was great. But then someone else was telling me that you got to be careful because if they cut up a diseased tree, that there's an issue with that. And can you tell me more about that, being an arborist?
Yeah, so there's obviously going to be importing anything into your area. There's going to be risk with bringing in invasives or bringing in other things. With the chips, if you're really worried about that, I haven't run into any issues where it's a thing. But if you're super worried about it, you can always let it sit for a season, let it cook at high temperatures, and it will help with anything that's diseased or rotting.
I mostly put it over
if
cardboard, so it's.
Yeah,
I was figuring the sun is a good.
Yeah, it's a good sterilizer. Yeah. I haven't run into anything like that, but I don't know if anyone else
Polk County has it available for free at their shops.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
And as available, you load, you haul.
Oh, okay. Cool. That's cool.
Are there any species of wood chips that are good to avoid?
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot. No, unless you know they're cutting bamboo or they're chipping. Usually arborists are pretty good about not doing that kind of thing. But yeah, any invasive species that might be mixed in, you could try to avoid. Usually if it's free, you don't have really much of a choice of what they're dumping for you. But then again, it's also like, birds bring in invasives and squirrels and dogs and humans. So it's kind of a hard thing to avoid. Anyways.
What about black walnut though?
Yeah, that is something that people ask. I find that to be a myth.
We've had issues under our black walnut tree that it kills stuff.
Yeah, the leaves kill everything under it.
There has been like a study that kind of went viral on this fact. Since then, it's kind of been debunked that it's actually so extreme that it would kill everything under it. I know working with the actual wood and chips with black walnut, it's not really a problem. What I find more of a problem is sometimes you get walnut seeds in there. But they're pretty easy to pull. But if you're really worried about it, I mean, you can always ask what type of trees there are. And again, let it sit a season if you're super worried about something coming in.
When is the sale, plant sale?
Morgan, you want to answer that?
The sale will start on our website, hopefully August 22nd. But we have a new website, so I'm transferring all the information from our old website to the new one. So I'm really hoping I can get that done by then. But so you can pre-order your plants then. We have the list here of what we'll have, and it's over 80 species and over 4,000 plants. So there's another volunteer opportunity for you. It takes a lot of work to organize that. And this sheet also has the bloom charts too, because we talked about wanting things to be in bloom, hopefully all the seasons.
When will the stock be available?
Yeah, so pre-ordering will start soon, and then pickup will be October 10th and 11th at Hamlin's Nursery in Dallas.
Hi. You talked about preparing the soil, putting cardboard and putting mulch. So if you're going to plant seeds, how do you deal with the seed planting in that scenario? Because that's not going to work.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and something I've come across in my own work too, because doing, if it's a garden that I'm doing for someone else and they maybe can't be, or they don't want to be as involved or something, maybe it is harder. But yeah, that area I wouldn't do any cardboard at the time that you're planting, but I would definitely do like some prior weed mitigation before that time comes, because like the wildflower meadow setting is actually one of the most difficult to maintain, because it's hard to pick out little weeds in the middle of so many different species growing. So doing the soil solarization or something like that, particularly in that kind of like setting for a wildflower meadow, maybe it's sunny also, could be helpful, or just doing the cardboard like before planting time. And yeah, I think I'm not sure, she was wanting to connect a point on that. We could keep talking about it.
Native seeds here to give away,
Uh-huh.
so I suggest you look.
Oh, great.
Some of these things like camas, they look like grass for 3 years, so you might pull them. So one thing I did is I got some little tiny peat pots, and camas needs several weeks of cold wet stratification. So I just put them in tiny little peat pots on the porch, and they did their natural cold wet stratification. They all sprouted, and I gave them to people who knew what they were planting in the ground.
Nice. Yeah, picking like a set of species, maybe not going so crazy with a bunch of different kinds, is another way to sort of know and expect what should come up. But I mean, maybe doing like a really light layer, like just a single cover of like if it is kind of a barky type thing that you're putting over the soil, like less than an inch, and that will give the area some kind of coverage, but it's not going to reseed as well with that either. So it's a little bit of a balance. Maybe, Izzy, I don't know if you add anything to that. But
So in this area, I did a mix of like plantings and seeds at one of my clients, and they had grass, and it wasn't super a weedy grass, but I did solarize it, and then I took the plastic off after the summer. I laid cardboard down pretty thick, and then I got a load of compost dumped, and I spread that compost out and I seeded in that. So since the cardboard will break down, you don't have to worry about the roots not penetrating the actual soil, like with a thick landscape cloth. So you can plant seeds, and clearly they love it, and I'm sure the cardboard's gone now. if you have a really weedy area or some just persistent grass that you're like, I'm not going to be able to get rid of this, it might be a couple seasons of doing the layering and lasagnaing and letting those break down naturally and kind of solarizing maybe in the summer months to prevent any seeds to come in, and then maybe planting and seeding from there. So it might be a season or two before you get that meadow, if that's what you're working with.
For the soil level on top of the cardboard, would you recommend for like just getting enough soil still before the seed layer?
I mean, it all like settles in, so I do like 4-6 inches deep.
Pretty good depth.
Pretty good
Yeah,
depth,
okay.
and then yeah.
I had another question. You didn't mention native grasses at all. Do you not use them?
We definitely could have included them. It was kind of there were so many things to pick from, but they are very important, and I do believe there are a number of them or at least a handful in here. I'll have to look, but they are important. They should be used, and
There's sometimes in mixes
they are
already.
sometimes in-
And it sounds like most of the stuff you do is in the sun. You don't do much in the shade. 'Cause I have a really big shady area.
Oh yeah, we had a couple things that were in the shade.
Yeah.
If you look over the wet plants and look at them in the book, we have a couple. The fringe cup will do great in the shade.
And actually, a number of the ones that were for dry sites can handle shade too. Maybe I didn't highlight that with my voice so much, but in here it will call out. And there are a lot of wonderful options and some ferns too that will take dry shade. And yeah, it was just sort of like who do we pick today, because obviously there was a lot to share as it was, but yeah.
There's two native plunge grasses in this basket over here. Our native grasses don't tend to be rhizomatous grasses like lawn grasses. They tend to be bunch grasses with space in between. And so there's two varieties in this basket.
Nice. Very nice.
I've not heard of sedges and rushes before, and they looked kind of like grasses.
They're like our wet area grasses. They do kind of look like grasses, and they do resemble a lot of our native grasses because they are clumping, just like the native grass. Like turf, what you see here is not native to North America at all. So like we have introduced what we see as these grass, but all of our natives are clumping grasses. And yes, sedges and rushes look similar. They're more they won't have like our grasses will have like a cold season grass, so they might be only up when it's cooler, or maybe they're a warm season grass, so they're only up when it's warm. A lot of the sedges and rushes are evergreen, and they'll always be showing foliage, and they're in wetter areas. And yeah.
One thing I learned from an all botany class, rushes are round,
Yeah.
sedges have edges.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So.
that kind of helps when you're,
Yeah, when you're like, especially the junkets, they're really soft and nice, and the sedges might cut you a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm covering a 110 by 46 foot drain field with a pollinator garden. I can't put any trees on it because the roots will go down into the drain field. And I didn't know if I could put any shrubbery on it because I'm not exactly sure if the shrubbery roots are also going to go down and interfere with the drain field tile, or if they're going to spread out. So, but I see now that I do need to try to get some shrubbery in there. Just off the top of your head, is there any shrubbery from what you know of that has super shallow roots that are safe to plant on top of drain fields without compromising the drain field?
Yeah, so it's kind of a myth that most of our species of trees and shrubs have deep roots.
Okay.
Most of them have very shallow root systems.
Okay,
And
good.
really long spreading. I
Yeah.
noted some things like the willows that will have really deep roots.
Okay, great.
A lot of species that are used specifically for erosion control will have kind of deeper, more robust roots.
Okay.
But like dogwoods won't have super deep roots. I'm thinking of some other things you can, plant in are like perennials if you're really worried about that might stick around longer, or some ground covers like the strawberries that will be green and have a little more showy.
Gotcha.
If you're super worried about it. But yeah, no, most of our trees and shrubs
Are shallow.
within the first 10 inches of soil.
Okay.
Oh, that is
And
shallow.
do
Yeah.
you recommend installing a hummingbird feeder to kind of help with birds queuing in on the garden? Or I have feeders out and about, and I have no idea how many birds are on there. It's probably like one really aggressive territorial bird,
Yeah.
but I didn't know if I should also incorporate hummingbird feeders inside the pollinator garden, or on the edge, or if it's even recommended.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same wonderings myself. For a long time, I felt like it should just be the plants. I should just plant flowers that they will appreciate. I've listened to other bird specialists speak, and they were promoting the idea of using feeders still. Just recently in Marion County, I heard a couple people speak at one of their presentations, and their key point was that they are important on sort of off-season times, so offering food when you don't have other food. But hugely important is just making sure you're cleaning your food,
Yes.
Like the feeders and or homes that you have, that it's really easy to let them go, the baths or the feeders, but really like a daily cleaning. And they gave like a timeline but just putting it in our heads of every day, those should be cleaned. And there's some tips on like how to, as far as like the feeding water, because people were worried about like wasting it or it freezing, and they had some good tips around that. I'll see if I can find the information they presented to connect with you guys too, if you're interested. I thought it was very helpful lecture.
That's my concern, is that I see in the neighborhood, a lot of hummingbird feeders that maybe are never cleaned, and
Yeah.
it's killing the birds.
I know, it's
Yeah.
very sad, because it's basically a trap then, because it's
Yeah.
feeding but killing. So like if you can't do that routine, the cleaning routine, just like know that your plants are going to serve well and be good with that, I think.
I also, because I'm very type B, I feel like I'm not like on that like every day. In the wintertime when there's less sun, it's easier to go. You can go longer without cleaning your feeder, and mold and bacteria won't come in. I take my feeders down. I clean them once flowers have emerged now in my garden, and then I put it out empty. So I don't actually fill my hummingbird feeder all summer. And so come fall, I'm gonna put it back out, and that's really when they need that nectar. You might notice during the summer hot months, they're not coming to the feeders as much. They have food around, and they're able to survive through that. It's really the winter months that we're keeping those hummingbirds here and not migrating.
I did a little bit of research on this, and I also observed, the hummingbirds won't even generally come unless they see a flower that they like. So, like in the summer, they're like, feeder, they focus on the flowers.
Okay.
So that really should be the focus for the season. But then, get them out when it comes.
Do you have to take consideration into, are any of these toxic to pets?
Oh, any of these species?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's something that it might say on theirs, but it's something to look up, especially if you have an animal who likes to eat things outside. Yeah. But I haven't ran into any, trying to think with native plants.
I know that I was gifted some of the showy milkweed, and before I planted it, I got on and was reading about it, and it said it's very toxic to pets, and so I didn't end up planting it. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult because a lot of times animals like out in nature will avoid plants that are toxic to them. They already know what things they can eat and what things they can't. It's a great one to plant because deer don't like it. I know the showy milkweed, so it could be a certain toxin they know about. But if you have dogs or something, that's where, you know, fencing comes in. That's where protecting your area is, preventing certain things from coming in to that area. Or, yeah, maybe planting something else, looking up an alternative that isn't toxic.
There are a couple of lists floating around, and ASPCA, the animal, I don't know everything that stands for, but like animal welfare organization, they do have like a generalized list that will say like lupin and iris and stuff, but like it won't give, you know, Willamette Valley natives, but you can kind of get a sense of if those ones are toxic generally, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure, but Oregon Flora, I'm guessing on the descriptions maybe notes it on there, but that could be another good list to put together kind of regionally, but ASPCA would be a good place to check first.
We have time for one more question.
Okay.
So I think if you're going to use hummingbird feeders, you need to be cognizant that birds are going to be most dependent on those in the wintertime. That's also the hardest time to maintain them. So when it's below freezing outside, the hummingbird feeders are frozen solid, and the hummingbirds come in the morning looking for sustenance, aren't going to find it unless they're willing to, at that time in the early morning, put out a fresh feeder, use feeders that have heaters on them, or something else. In the summer, you have a different challenge, the one of keeping mold and other pathogens out of the feeders, which means cleaning them every day or two or so. I think it's folly to put out hummingbird feeders where you can't see them. It's cool to see the birds, but it also means you're looking out the kitchen window and a hummingbird feeder is 2 feet from you. You're going to notice it. You're going to notice its condition. It's easy to take care of. If it's out in the underbrush with your native planting, you're going to see the same things. It's not going to do any good. So think about the stewardship of hummingbirds and the feeders before you put them out. And if you don't want to do that, take them down in the summer.
Yeah.
And
That's a great point, because I didn't even think about that, but mine's right by my front door, and when it's coming time, like maybe it's empty or like, you know, it's been a couple days, they'll let you know in the wintertime, and they'll sometimes dive bomb you, and you're like, okay, I'm putting it in, like I'll clean it. So it's like another dependent. It really is in the winter, but it's an important one. So.
And I just wanted to say, it is occurring to me how I recognized you too, that you were the great speakers that I heard present in Marion County. And so, yeah, what they presented was really like great information. I really appreciated that. So thanks for sharing.
the other part of that is we have 2 feeders up all the time. We own, I think, 6 feeders. So it's very easy to trade out a clean one or an old one, and then you can run the other one through the dishwasher and hand wash it, whatever you need to do. There's never a void there.
Yeah.
Never a blank spot.
That's
Great. You don't
tip
get
too.
dive bombed.
All right.
Let's see what's on the next
Oh, yes.
slide. What do we got?
Okay.
Okay. So some plugs. Okay. Thank you for our plant sale. You can find that at polkswcd.com. We also have a fall bird walk. Polk SWCD actually owns 2 properties in the county. One is called Cornerstone. That's 87 acres, and we have volunteer opportunities there for planting or taking out invasive species, but also just enjoying the wildlife there. So that's up on our website. If you need any tools for planting or taking out any weeds, we have a tool loan program. You can find that also on our website. We have rakes and different kinds of shovels, loppers. We also have weed wrenches. So if you're on a property where you have like Scotch broom or English hawthorn, that's a really awesome tool, mechanical tool for that will grab the roots too. And then our website, we have a page dedicated to native plant resources, so you can find all kinds of information on there. Did I have anything else? Okay. Before we jump back to this, I just want to encourage you to spread the word about naturescaping and native plants, and I love that like Jennifer brought her neighbor. I think she's got little tags next to her plants in her yard, so her neighbors that are walking by can see, oh, that's rose checker mallow, and like learning that way. I love that. And jumping back to the garden in Dallas, we got a call from somebody that lives in the neighborhood across the way and said, I heard you're putting in a garden, I want to come out and volunteer. And they actually have an HOA in that neighborhood, and I'm going to be working with my HOA to incorporate native plants, because if you know, HOAs are a little bit restrictive on what you can plant. So I was like, oh, that is such a win. I was so excited about that. And then the resources on the table there, again, it has the list of what we'll have at our sale. And we will send a follow-up email to everybody that will have, you can go to the next one, all the information here. It'll have a PDF of the presentation too. And we're recording it too, so you can share it with your friends. And Jordan, do you have any plugs that you want to share?
Yeah, so the Lucky Meat Watershed Council has 2 more events coming up here soon. So on October 8th, Stephanie Hazen will be presenting for us Backyard Butterflies and Conservation. So that's a great way that you can continue kind of in vein of this, learning about how to support native butterflies in your backyard. And then in early November, on the 5th, we have Dragonflies and Damselflies of the Watershed. And so that will be with expert odontologists, I hope I said that right, Carrie Kirst and Jim Johnson, and where it will be a dive into the fascinating world of these creatures. So if you want to learn more about dragonflies and damselflies, look to sign up on our website under the events tab there for Lucky Meat Watershed. Thank you guys very much for coming.
Thank you to Jessica and Izzy. They have their business cards back there, but I just want to give them a big thank you.